This is NS5-21, the standard method for multiplication. How can I find 42 times 3? How can I split the 42 to make it easier? Why does this make sense? Sorry, why does this make it easier? So 42 times 3. We've learned in previous lessons that we can take the number 42 and break it into tens and ones. We can have 40 plus 2. So that's how you can split them apart, and then you can multiply each of them by 3. So we know how we can split the 42, which is the 40 plus 2. And why does it make it easier? It makes it easier because now we're only dealing with tens and ones, and we're dealing with numbers that we know how to multiply by. We know how to multiply by 2, and we can actually multiply by 40 by imagining it being 4 and then just adding a 0 on the end. Think about it. This strategy is something that mathematicians use often. They break a problem into 2 easier problems, and then they solve the easier problems. Now they have 2 problems to solve instead of only 1, but they are both easier to do than the original problem. And that's very true. It's so much easier to solve 2 smaller, easier problems than it is to solve a large one. We often get overwhelmed by the larger one. So here they are showing us the method that we've learned before, which is to break the numbers apart into 40 times 3 and 2 times 3. And we see the array that they've created for that. And then we also see the question over here of 42 times 3. Now I'm going to rewrite that so that you can see it in the right way, because the screen is not showing it correctly. So it should show you 42 times 3 like that, okay? So here you can see that they've multiplied 2 times 3 to get 6. So that's our ones column. And then 40 times 3 to get 120. So that is our tens column. So we've multiplied 2 times 3, which is the same as over here, and 40 times 3, which is the same thing as over here. And the answer that they find is 126 because they add up their numbers. So 6 plus 0, there's nothing above the 2, there's nothing above the 1 for 100, so that's where they get their 126. How are the 2 ways of writing and solving 42 times 3 the same, and how are they different? Well, they're the same because both of them involve separating the ones and the tens. They're different because they're written differently. One of them you would see 40 times 3 plus 2 times 3. Written linearly, so in a straight line. Whereas the other method, you see up and down. So 42 times 3, and the 3 is below it. And then you are multiplying your ones first, then your tens. And you're doing it separately. So in this case, we actually started with our tens, whereas in this case, we're going to start with our ones. Why is it important to line up the ones digit with the ones digit and the tens digit with the tens digit? Well, here you can see that they didn't. So 42 times 3, here's your ones column right here. And if you notice, the answer they actually put into their tens column. So if they do it that way, they would have nothing here to add. And then it would appear as if they had the 6 was to be in the tens column, so that's where they got the 8. And it completely changes the number. So you really don't want to do that. You want to keep everything in the correct columns. I want to keep my 6 in the ones column. I want to keep my 120 in the correct column, so I have my ones, tens, hundreds. And that way, when I go to add the numbers up in the end, everything will be lined up for doing that. My ones will be in the ones column. My tens will be in the tens column, and my hundreds will be in the hundreds column. It's a much different number or answer, right? 186 is a big difference between 126. So we're going to test this out now. So we have the number 12 times 4, and they've shown you here how they've broken apart. They're going to start with the ones column, so they're going to go 2 times 4, and 2 times 4 is 8. And then they're asking us to go 10 times 4. I'm just going to change colors here so that you can see that. So in the number 12, it's got a 10 in it. So 10 times 4 is 40. And then, of course, you would add those together to get your final answer. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus nothing up above it is 4. So the answer would be 48. We'll try that again over here. So 2 times 3 is 6. And then 30, so we have to remember that's not 3, but 30 times 3 is 90. And then we add those up. Standard method or algorithm to multiply two-digit numbers. So here we're looking at how we should be doing it. I'm just going to rewrite the 42 over here because it got slid over. So we'll ignore it over there and put it over here. So now you're seeing the two steps all in one line. Okay, so instead of doing the 6 first and then putting the 120 underneath it, they're doing all of those steps at the same time. So 2 times 3 is 6. 40 times 3 is 120. So, but we also can look at it as 4 times 3, and there's your 12, knowing that if there was a 0 there, it would be, if there was a 0 where the 6 is, that would be 120. We're still placing our digits in the correct place. So this is still 100, this is still 20, but the 6 is there from the earlier answer that we did. So we're going to rewrite some of these questions now in the standard method. So 321 times 4, so 321. We're going to put our 4 in the ones column, multiplication sign. This is actually an equal sign. So this line here, that is your equal sign. You do not need to add an additional equal sign. So you don't need to do that, okay, because this is your equal sign. Is 1,284. I'll show you again. So 342 times 2. I also highly suggest you copy one of these into your math survival guide using different colors, as I am doing, so that you can remember these steps. So ones column first. 2 times 2 is 4. Tens column. 40 times 2 is 80. Hundreds column. 300 times 2 is 600. Okay, so this one would be a good example to copy into your math survival guide. They are each done in colors, and the lines that we have here match the answers that we put down, so you can see where each of the digits came from.